My name is Mikael Kasurinen and I'm the creative director of Control Resonant. It is a direct sequel, to be clear.
Okay.
The reason why it's not called Control 2 is that we want to see every Control game as a kind of independent experience. So they all stand on their own feet. You don't need to play the first Control game for you to understand what's happening in Control Resonant. So we wanted it to create it like that because we didn't want there to be any barriers for anybody to not just directly jump in if they felt like it. So you don't have this, let's say, the burden that, oh, I need to play all of these games before I can, or like understand fully what's going on in this one. So it's not a spin-off, it's a direct sequel. It continues the story of the world of Control, the next big supernatural disaster, if you will. The first one was all about the oldest house and how the hiss leaked in, and then Jesse entered the place and became the director, and she dealt with the situation, and she was looking for her brother. The second game is about Dylan, the brother, but this time there's a new threat and he's looking for Jesse in this one. When we started to design and think about the Control franchise, we wanted to be an RPG franchise from the get-go. But why we didn't jump directly to the deep end right away was that we're not a big studio and we wanted to identify what's the right way to do a Remedy RPG experience. So what we did was we took the things that we're known of, that we do really well, like third-person shooting, but then we applied to it these RPG elements. Like, for instance, it was the first time ever that we had actually other quests besides the main quest. You can go and do other things, separate stories that are not necessarily directly connected to the main campaign. Also, we did things like you can actually have a conversation with characters. You can pick dialogue choices and like role play a bit, like which version of Jesse do you want to be, and like have more agency overall. And then we also had ways for you to modify your service weapon and so on, like have different elements to kind of pursue and so on, so you could shape your character to a degree. So we started to bring in this role-playing element into a Remedy experience, do this like a first step towards that direction. We learned a lot from that experience, and now with Control Resonant we took all of these learnings and jumped even further into realizing this Control RPG experience. Color red feels meaningful and serious to us. It is the color of blood. Okay. It is the color of something unsettling, something horrific, something serious, something meaningful. It's a very powerful color. And I think it's us carefully utilizing it within different experiences that we are creating to kind of invoke a certain sense of emotion. I think the main challenge is to pick the things we want to talk about, so that when people think about what do they want to do, what do they want to buy in September, we stand out. We're being distinctive and we're doing things that nobody else is doing. So we want to find what are the right messages, what are the things that we want to kind of push and talk about to make sure that people see it as a meaningful and different experience that is worth experiencing yourself. And I think that's the kind of a key thing. And I do think we're succeeding at that. When you look at the different trailers that we're kind of putting out there, you see a lot of certain types of games, but when you see Control, it's like, oh, what's that? That's exciting. And it has a lot of weird things going on, but that's partially on purpose because we want it to be different. We want it to evoke something different and so on. That's why we, for instance, had a strong presence of music in the Summer Game Fest trailer, for instance. It has this kind of a song, Manala Maila, which is a Finnish song, and I don't think anybody else would have put like, hey, let's have a longer song in the trailer in a language that only a few million people really understands on the planet. But that's what we do because we want to stand out, do something different, something that evokes feelings. I think the situation is actually quite different when you compare the two. Epic published Alan Wake 2, so as a publisher they have a certain kind of role to play in how the game is arranged and how it's like distributed and handled overall. The publisher has that responsibility, and Remedy was the developer of the game. That's the relationship we had with Epic. Now with Control Resonant, we are self-publishing, so we are both the publisher and the developer of the game. So with Annapurna is co-financing this experience. So they are like paying a certain part of the expenses of developing of the game, and in the transaction, if you will, they have also rights on the certain TV shows and movies in regards of Alan Wake and Control.